Welcome to Weighing In Fights and Films. I'm Jenny Rose. This is my cousin and co-host,
Brett to Threat. And today we are reviewing Fighting for a Generation, 20 Years of the UFC documentary.
What's it about?
Well, as the title explains, it's 20 years. It's the first 20 years of the UFC's existence.
Thank you.
Yes, and for casual fans who don't know much about MMA, this is a great place to start.
I enjoyed this documentary. It was very informative on the UFC, and I don't want to say I didn't have respect for Dana White, but this documentary did give me more respect for what they went through, what they did, and what they've accomplished. I think this is a good documentary that if you don't know much about the UFC and want to look past the usual outsider view of it just being a bloody sport, I think this is a good place to start.
I got into MMA probably about 3 years ago, and my friend of mine recommended this to me. What I didn't know about the UFC is that they started out with tournament fighting, which is a fighter will fight 2 or 3 times in one night, which is like unheard of for MMA today. And that opened my eyes as to what badasses these original guys were.
It showed me how much work they put into this and kind of how UFC, the trials and tribulations of getting something like this organization off the ground and to be the presence that it is in the sport.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. They took they bought it for $2 million and then sold it for like 4.24 billion or something crazy like that. And you can see the evolving. You can see it's the UFC itself is the one that brought MMA to existence.
I don't know if you can say to existence, but it brought it to the public eye. It brought it onto Fox.
Okay.
It brought it out into these public awareness.
No, but as the documentary shows, it does bring it into existence because the original fight was to decide which martial art form was the superior martial art form.
But it wasn't called UFC then.
What was it called?
Wasn't that the one with the Gracie guy?
Yeah, that was the Ultimate Fighting Challenge. Well, okay, I see what you're saying.
Am I getting too technical?
I see what you're saying. It was the Gracie gym used to hold like fights in the gym themselves, but then when they went to pay-per-view, that's when they called it the UFC.
Okay, I'm being too technical.
Okay. Okay, it was conceived in the Gracie gym, but then the Ultimate Fighting Championship was then born on pay-per-view. What you can see in this documentary, which I really enjoyed, is you can actually see the evolvement of the sport. Whereas in the beginning, the Gracies were just dominating sport because no one really knew jiu-jitsu at the time. But then when they started cross-training in other gyms, that's when the mixed martial arts came into play. And then, the sport just actually evolves in front of your eyes.
You almost don't need to watch the documentary now. He just laid it all out.
But there's so much great stuff to see because the UFC has a lot of stars. It's like,
yeah.
I hate to compare it to the professional wrestling, but that's all professional wrestling is personality and stars. But you get that with the UFC, plus it's real. And a lot of the stars that the UFC had back in the day, most of them have all retired except for like Vitor Belfort and some of the old dogs still fight. Like BJ Penn is coming back this weekend.
Yeah.
But a lot of them are retiring. So at the age right now, you can see them in their heyday with this documentary.
That was fun to see some of the history of these names that I hear of now more in a coaching sense, or I hear of them now in more of a legend sense, like, they're now, Hall of Fame.
So how do you weigh in on this?
Well, I'll weigh in on it the same as we weigh in on films. We're using the same punch system. It's 5 punches. 5 is a KO, knockout. 4 is a TKO, technical knockout, or a submission. You can have a little play. 3 is a decision win or loss. 2 is a tap out. And 1 is face down, bloodied on the mat. Don't watch it. So with this documentary, I give it a solid 3.
A solid 3?
Yeah. It was worth a watch. It's not too time consuming in your watch, and you do learn a lot, and especially if you are unfamiliar with the history of the UFC and you want to get to know it beyond just the face nose breaking and blood everywhere and the things that my mother thinks go on in the octagon. How about you?
I would give it a 4 punches because I think it's definitely a TKO. The only thing it doesn't do is it doesn't explore other organizations. Like there was Pride back in the day, there was Strike Force, and they purposely don't explore. It's because it's about themselves, of course.
Competition.
Right, but I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of that. So but if you want to see just to educate yourself on the UFC, this is the best documentary.
if you like what we said here in our reviews, please like, comment, and subscribe below. And also, you can support this podcast with gear available. We have T-shirts, I believe.
Mugs.
And mugs.
Bed sheets. And also support her fight career by buying a T-shirt in the link below.